Okay, first two problems want us to find the degree of the monomial. And so remember that the degree of a monomial is the power. So this one right here has a power of 8. And so you would say simply that that is an 8th degree monomial. This one right here has 2 powers. And so remember, when you are combining powers, you add them. So 2 plus 3 is 5, so that makes it a 5th degree monomial. Next up, we are writing polynomials in standard form and then naming them based on their degree and number of terms. So standard form means highest power first and then down the line from there. So for this one, I need to switch the 3x squared and the 4x because the x squared is a higher power than the x. So in standard form, that is 3x squared plus 4x. Then it says name the polynomial based on the degree. So the highest exponent is a 2, so that means it is a quadratic. And name it based on the number of terms, and so since we have 2 terms, it is also a binomial. So that is a quadratic binomial. Same thing for the next one. The highest degree is the 3, so I need to put the 2p cubed first. The next highest exponent is a 2, so the plus 7p squared comes next. And then that is followed by the minus 3p. Since the highest exponent is a 3, that means it is a cubic. And since this has 1, 2, 3 terms, it is a trinomial. Okay, now we are simplifying, and that basically means just to combine like terms. So if I look at this here, I have an x squared in this, a 3x squared there. So if I put those together, I have a total of 4x squareds. Then I have 6x's right there and another 7x's right there. So altogether that gives me 13x's. And then finally 11 and 4 make 15. Same thing with the next one. If I look at the highest degree, I have a cubed there, and notice that none of the other terms are to the 3rd power, so the 5w cubed stays all by itself. Then I have 3w squareds there and 7w squareds there for a total of 10w squareds. Then if I look at the w's, 8w's plus 3w's makes 11w's altogether. And 2 plus 1 is 3. So all we're really doing there is combining like terms. Next two are a little bit trickier because now we have to subtract, but the idea is the same. So I have 4q squareds here, take away 2q squareds there, leaves me with 2q squareds. Then I have 10q's right here minus 7q's right there gives me 3 cubes, and then I have 7, take away 5 is 2. So that works out to be 2q squared plus 3q plus 2 because again I am subtracting my like terms. Same deal with the next one. Start with the highest power is to the 4th, and since I don't have any other terms to the 4th power, that's just going to be 9t to the 4th. Then I'm going to look for to the 3rd power, and I don't have any, so I'll skip those. Then next is to the 2nd power, so I'm going to go minus 3t squared right there for those. Then I have 5t minus a negative 6t. These two negatives make a positive, so I have 5t plus 6t, which works out to be 11t. And then I have 8 minus a negative 4, which again is really like 8 plus 4, so that's going to work out to be 12. So the subtraction is a little bit trickier than the addition because you have to remember that the negative sign is going to carry through to all of the terms in the parentheses. Alright, now we are simplifying, so we're basically distributing here. So I have to take the 6x squared and multiply it by both the 4x squared and the 3. So So when I go 6x squared times 4x squared, I multiply the numbers just like normal. So 6 times 4 is 24. And then when it comes to the exponents, when I'm multiplying, I end up adding the exponents. So x squared times x squared works out to be x to the 4th. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the 6x squared times the 3. So 6 times 3 gives me 18. And then I have an x squared here and no other x's there, so that's just going to stay with an x squared all by itself. Same thing with this one, but now since there are 3 terms inside this other parentheses, I have to multiply the negative 8c cubed by all 3 of those things. So to start with, negative 8 times 3 makes negative 24. And then c cubed times c squared, again I add the exponent, so that gives me c to the 5th. Now I go negative 8 times 2 gives me negative 16. And c to the 3rd times c gives me c to the 4th, because there's really a c to the 1st right there, and 3 plus 1 makes 4. And finally, negative 8 times negative 9 is positive 72. And since there's no c's on that term right there, it's going to stay as a c cubed. And there's no simplifying I can do with any of those, because all of the exponents are different. So that will be my final answer. Okay, now we're doing the opposite, so we're factoring. So this is where we have to take each one of these things and break them down. So if I go 16, that is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and then b to the 4th is b times b times b times b. 8 works out to be 2 times 2 times 2, and b squared is b times b. And then 20 will be 2 times 2 times 5, and then I only have 1b there. And I need to see what they all have in common. So they all have 2 2's. So I can take that out as a 4. And they all have at least 1b, so I can take that out as well. Then that leaves me from here, 2 times 2 is 4, and b times b times b is b cubed, plus 2 times b is what's left from that one, plus 5 is what's left from there. So that is what that whole thing works out to be when it's factored. Alright, so let's look at the next one. That is pretty much the same kind of deal. So I need to factor 77x cubed. I need to factor 22x squared. I need to factor negative 33x, and I need to factor negative 88. So 77 just breaks down into 7 times 11, and then x cubed is, of course, x times x times x. 22 is 2 times 11, and then x times x. Negative 33 is going to be negative 3 times 11, and then just 1x. And then negative 88 is going to be negative 8 times 11 and no x's at all. And so the only thing that all 4 of these share is an 11. So that's the only thing that I can factor out of all of them. So for the very first one right here, I'm left with 7x cubed. Next one here is plus 2x squared. Next one there is negative 3x. And the last one, all I have is a negative 8. So this whole thing right there is that deal right there factored out. Okay, now we are simplifying each product again, but we are multiplying binomials, and so this is when we are FOILing. So we're going to do the first 2 terms together. So the first term in this parentheses times the first term in that parentheses is x squared. The outside terms multiplied together is 9 times x, or 9x. The inside terms multiplied together is 2 times x, or 2x. And the last ones multiplied together is 2 times 9, or 18. And so if I put all of that, or put the like terms together, that gives me a final answer of x squared plus 11x plus 18. Same thing for the next one. 4b times b gives me 4b squared. outside ones multiplied together. Be careful with the negative. 4 times a negative 8 is negative 32b. Inside is negative 1 times b, or negative 1b. And last times last, a negative times a negative gives me a positive 8. Then if I combine those like terms, 4b squared, these two things will combine to give me negative 33b plus 8 for my final answer when I FOIL those two out. Okay, now we are multiplying again, but this time I have a binomial times a trinomial. So now I'm going to do the old elementary school multiplication method with this. So I'm going to write them on top of each other, and then I'm going to take this 2 and multiply it by all 3 terms on the top. So 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. 2 times h is a positive 2h. And 2 times 3h squared is 6h squared. Now I'll scoot over to the h and do the same thing. H times negative 7 is negative 7h. H times h is h squared. And h times 3h squared is 3h cubed. Now if I add those together, and I'll just go from the left here, 3h cubed plus 7h squared minus 5h minus 14 is my final answer. Same thing with the next one, a binomial times a trinomial, so I'll write them on top of each other. Negative 1 times 9 is negative 9. A negative 1 times a negative 4z is a positive 4z. And a negative 1 times z squared is a negative z squared. Then I scoot over here to the z. Z times 9 is 9z. Z times negative 4z is negative 4z squared. And z times z squared is z cubed. Now when I add these up, I have z cubed minus 5z squared plus 13z minus 9 for my final answer. Okay, and then finally we're going to do some multiplying things together, and we're trying to use the shortcut here. So we're trying to do this all in one step. So since this is r plus 3 times r plus 3, I can write out, I know r times r is going to be r squared. Then I'm going to get 3r in the middle and another 3r on the outside, so that's going to be a total of 6 r's. And then 3 times 3 is 9. So that's going to be my final answer with that one. When I FOIL this one out, k times k is k squared. But then when I multiply the outside, I'm going to get 3k. Inside gives me negative 3k, so those will cancel, so I don't need to write them out. And then negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. So just in one step there, that's my final answer. Same thing here, but a little more complicated because there's a letter in front, but it'll work out to be basically the same. So 3d times 3d is 9d squared. Then when I do the outside ones, I'm going to get 30d from that. The inside ones are going to give me another 30d's, and altogether that will be 60d's. And then 10 times 10 makes 100. Then same deal with this one. First times first is g squared. If I did the outer terms, that would be negative 10g. If I did the inner terms, that would be positive 10g, and those will cancel. And then 10 times negative 10 is negative 100, and that is my final answer there. Okay, and then my last two. 2m minus 7 squared means 2m minus 7 times 2m minus 7. So 2m times 2m is 4m squared. Then when I do the outer ones, I'm going to get negative 14m. The inner ones are also negative 14m, which altogether is negative 28m. And then negative 7 times negative 7 makes positive 49. And again, all of these you can do the long way. You can FOIL them out and then combine the like terms when you're done. What I'm just trying to get you in the habit of is doing it a little bit faster just to save yourself some time. So this last one here, since this is 7h minus 2 times 7h plus 2, if I go 7h times 7h, I get 49h squared. And then I can skip the inner and outer ones because those are going to cancel. 7h times 2 is 14h. 7h times negative 2 is negative 14h. And then negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4. So that's my final answer there. All right, so that's a little review from what we've been doing so far in this chapter. And so when I get back tomorrow, there will be a quiz waiting for you. So that's exciting. If you have any questions from things that I went over in this video that you didn't understand, I can go through them with you in class tomorrow before the quiz. And if you want, this video is on YouTube, so you can always go back and rewatch it a little bit on your own if there were some things you didn't understand. So I will see you tomorrow.